welcome back to Screams and Beans. Mary has the giggles. She was concerned because we're advertising Malibu rum that we put into our coffee. So we brewed a French vanilla Keurig. I want to say iPod. That's not the right word. K-cup. And added some Malibu rum vanilla creamer because, you know, that's how we roll.
Yep.
So cheers to the little rum and vanilla concoction that we got going on. So if we get a little loopy later, you can blame the Malibu.
Please don't report us.
Yes. I didn't ask Malibu rum if it would be okay to say their name like 99 times and put their picture on our...
Malibu rum.
Yeah. But the reason is tonight's episode is The Shining, and we wanted to do something movie theme related, so we chose Malibu rum for
Red rum.
Right? So it made sense to do it that way. So there's a couple things I want to circle back to from previous episodes that we mentioned. One of them is we were talking, I think it was in one of the Paranormal Activity episodes, and my mother called me and she's like, "You are not telling the truth." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, Mama called titles.
And she said, "You said you never did any practical jokes or whatever." And I was like, I didn't. She was like,
jokes.
"Oh, no. You and Tracy," who was my childhood best friend at the time, we lived next door to each other in the neighborhood that we were at in Eugene back in the 70s. She said, "You and Tracy had a slumber party somewhere at one of the girls' houses, and apparently we shaved our eyebrows off." Like, that's
you don't remember that at all?
I have no memory of that whatsoever. And my mom, of course, remembers it because the mom of that kid was like pissed off. And, you know, I whoever you are, I'm so sorry. That is just not cool. I honestly have no memory of doing that. But apparently it happened, and I had to mea culpa.
Yeah, but that's not a practical joke.
It's not. It's terrible. But I feel like that's bullying.
Fashion faux pas.
I don't know what I did.
You did it to another girl? It wasn't
Yes,
yours?
no.
Oh, that's just being mean.
Right? I deserve something karmic to not go my way at some point in life for that little escapade, and I am so sorry that ever happened. I would never do that again in a million years. So thanks, Mom, for keeping me honest.
Yeah. I don't think it was a practical joke.
And then the other thing, I wanted to share this photo. If you recall, in the Friday the 13th episode, I was making fun of the hair, and we were joking about how it looked like Kevin Bacon's hair and the girl's hair.
Oh, it was all the same.
Looked like it was the same, and it looked like a bowl went over their head.
The bowl cut.
Okay, I know we're like live and we don't have like cool effects, so I just have to physically walk over.
Yeah.
But this is the photo, and don't tell my husband I showed you this; he'll kill me. Of his, so Dave is right here. His brother. Whoops! I'm trying to get there we go. Dave is right there. His brother Rick is right there. His brother Carrie's right there, and his young baby sister Jen. And the light's glaring. Okay, there we go. So you can see the bowl cut that
prominent in the family.
Charles Fuller, their dad, gave them when they were kids. I mean, holy crap. Eventually, he quit doing that because I think Dave reached a certain age and was like, I'm over this, Dad. I'm going to have someone else cut my hair.
If you noticed the picture, the bowl cup kept getting higher with each kid.
Oh, it was terrible. And then the other thing is paranormal. So I promised you guys an art piece for every movie that we did, and I got behind, and I didn't have the paranormal one done, but I finished it. So I'm going to show and tell that as well. So we have Little Hunter, and we have the demon, and we have the muse, which meant mine, and we have all the little symbols, and the ghost in the bedroom. I just thought it turned out kind of fun.
It's fantastic.
And I even got the little footprints going from the bed into the door hallway.
It's fantastic.
So
Fade your art at its fullest.
I even did like little paste on the back to I went back and looked at the bedroom wall color and like tried to mimic the bed frame and the wall color, and I did it with texture paste so it would look like a sanded, like a treated wall.
Wow.
So yeah, I kind of went all out. So there you go. That's our art for that one.
That is cool. She does fantastic art. She doesn't believe it, but we all call it Phaedra art.
Well, okay, so for The Shining, we also have, every time I make a piece now, I got to make Mary something.
Ah.
So this is Mary's little one to hang in her room. So it's
in my bedroom.
It's red. Oh my God, that's going to give Lucas nightmares. Red rum. Come play with us. The Overlook Hotel. I mean, look at the axe through the head, people. That just can't get any more gross. And then you have the girls, like, it's just creepy cool. And little Danny on his tricycle on the carpet. So this is a carpet that was in the hallway. And then this was a carpet that was in room 237. So, woohoo! And then the red rum, which to you guys looks like murder because it's
actually backwards.
Yeah, but it really says red rum. And then the one I made for myself is I made this one for myself to hang. So it's like a big giant tag shape. But look at the elevators, guys. I mean, the elevator doors look blotte. So yeah, that's gonna be creepy cool. Anyway, yeah. So there's our artwork for the
so
episode.
beautiful. It's just in real life. It's just amazing the art that she does.
Thank you, Mary. It's so sweet.
I'm very excited. And we should say, take a quiet moment and reflect on Shelley Duvall and her.
Oh yeah.
That she died.
Yeah.
Poor lady. God, this is so cool.
There's
going up here.
Yeah, she was. When I first saw the movie, I didn't see it in 1980. Again, we kind of covered our life in 1980 from prior episode because I believe one of the Friday the 13th movies was in 1980.
Yeah.
So when I saw the movie, it was much later. It was like high school or college, somewhere in there. And when I saw it, I remember looking at Shelley Duvall, and I couldn't. She was in the movie Popeye.
Popeye is how I remember her.
She played Olive Oyl.
Olive
She
Oyl.
was cast, and I couldn't get that out of my head almost the entire. I'm like, this makes no sense. Olive Oyl's in this movie. Like I couldn't.
She's Olive Oyl.
It took me a few times watching the movie to like finally just completely disassociate Olive Oyl from The Shining and let her be Wendy Torrance in The Shining. And she did a great job. Apparently she didn't get along very well with the director, Stanley Kubrick, who's touted to be, a little bit odd and
difficult,
demanding. But
they have visions.
Yes, these directors, they know what they
have
want.
visions, and so unfortunately sometimes it takes. So I think I read somewhere the ball scene where Danny's playing on the carpet and the ball.
Oh, the ball
rolls like right in the middle. It took 20 times to.
Oh my God!
Because Stanley didn't like the way the ball rolled.
Wow!
And so until they got it to where he liked it, it was 20 different takes. I think is what I read, and I was like.
God.
Can you imagine just sitting there? I don't know how long 20 takes. How long it takes to do each take.
How you have reset.
Right. I don't know that kind of information, but to just roll the ball and then for the child to be still with it and not come. I would have been I'm bored.
Yeah, who knows what Danny
I was surprised 20 times.
Wow. Okay, so The Shining was dubbed a psychological thriller, which is our favorite kind. Yes. Released in the U.S. on May 23rd, 1980. Oh my God,
typo!
I did a typo. It says 2980. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be around 2980.
No.
And it was.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It had sets based on real locations, and it also was filmed in a studio. Frequently cited as one of the best horror films of all time. Produced, directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on Stephen King's book, The Shining, which I went through.
You have
my husband's Stephen King book collection, and I have his paperback of The Shining, which is well loved.
I think it was bigger.
And no. And here's the thing:
I'm thinking of The Stand.
I looked through here today to try to find all work no play makes Jack a dull boy. I tried to find that in here and I couldn't find it. So I might have to just now reread this book again just to see if I can find it. But yeah, here's The Shining. This one, the original book came out in 1977. This is a republished one that came out in 1978. but it's a first printing of 1978 of the company that took over. So anyway,
Wow.
it's fun to have it.
What a
and
good day.
It's a completely different
Look at
story.
the cover.
I mean, when we say based on The Shining, we are not joking. Stanley Kubrick took an idea from this book and went off the
Way
rails
left field.
with it. Did not stick with how the book unfolded, but kept the characters, kept certain things true to the story. So seeing the book or reading the book and seeing the movie, to me, didn't annoy me, because even though they're almost like two different things, there's a lot tying the two together. That didn't bother me that he went somewhere else with it, because I kind of like quirky things when directors do that. Whereas other books, you just want to see it. Like the Harry Potter series, can you imagine seeing it any other way than it unfolded with it following the books almost exactly? But Stephen King doesn't do that with his stories. So, and the funny thing is, he was famous for saying that he didn't understand why this movie was scary. I'm like, what? Are you not demented? You can't see any even the blood in the elevator?
That was creepy.
Anyway, yeah. So, so it was based on Stephen King's book with the same character names of Jack, Danny, and Wendy Torrance. And then, of course, we love the Scatman Crothers character comes in and does his little part. So this is kind of... so you can go online, obviously, Google The Shining. There's 10,000 little trivia tidbits about this movie. I'm not going to cover them all, because you all can go and do that. I picked and pulled a few interesting factoids I thought would amuse. Kubrick had been considering directing a horror film for some time, so this was his first one. A few years before, he refused to direct The Exorcist, which I find hilarious, because it was breaking box office records around the world. Like, that was a big oops.
Could you imagine him doing that movie, though? How different it would be?
Oh, yeah, it would have
Because Stanley's got such a weird vision of everything.
Yeah.
That who knows what The Exorcist would have been like.
You know, Stanley Kubrick's famous for 2001 The Space Odyssey. Dave and I watched that, and seriously, we were like, huh.
Yeah, it's
like,
it was
it was so, I mean, I like quirky, but that was beyond my level of comprehension. And then I had to go read about it to understand what was I supposed to be understanding that I wasn't getting from this movie. And there's so much written about it. I'm like, oh my God, okay, whatever. I'm over it. But okay, so remember Friday the 13th opened with Star Wars movies? The Shining opened the same weekend as The Empire Strikes Back.
Star Wars again.
All right, Star Wars was dominating in the early 80s, let's just say. So The Shining was released on 10 screens for a 4-day weekend, the third highest grossing opening weekend from fewer than 50 screens at the time, behind Star Wars and The Rose. So Star Wars came out in 77, Shining came out in 1980, The Rose came out in 79. So even though it was falling behind some of those more popular movies, it still made an impression with audiences. And today, The Shining is number 20 out of 100 of American Film Institute's 100 thrills of all time. So to be up in the 20 spot, that's pretty awesome.
Right. Considering all the movies they make now.
There's like a really long movie plot on Wikipedia. Everybody watching this episode by now, I'm assuming, has watched The Shining. If you haven't, we're going to do a ton of spoiler alerts, so you might as well just pause and go watch it and come back. But here's the movie plot according to Wikipedia, and this is only the first paragraph. There's like 5 paragraphs long of the plot, which basically tells you the entire movie, right? And we don't need to do that. So Jack Torrance, who is Jack Nicholson, takes a winter caretaker position at the remote Overlook Hotel in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, which closes every winter season. After his arrival, manager Stuart Ullman, we're gonna
my guard dog. My daughter's home.
After his arrival, manager Stuart Ullman advises Jack that a previous caretaker, Charles Grady, killed his wife, 2 young daughters, and himself in a hotel the decade prior. So basically, Jack, Wendy, and Danny are headed to the Overlook Hotel. They take a tour of the hotel to decide, basically Jack's interviewing for the job. They're going to be caretakers over the winter season. The hotel is closed. And then the idea is that theory of, oh my gosh, it just escaped my brain. When you're stuck in the winter and it's like snowy and there's nowhere to go and you go a little stir crazy. Oh my God, what am I thinking? There's a phrase. I just lost it. Anyway, never mind. Something
thinking
fever.
about it.
Something
Cabin fever.
Yes, cabin. Thank you. Oh my God.
See, don't think about it.
Okay.
Cabin fever.
Let me get more caffeine in me. Hold on.
And alcohol.
The red rum coffee is very good.
Now the mine's cooled down yet.
Yeah, so cabin fever, which Dave and I lived at Crater Lake National Park for many years, and we lived there year round. So during the winter months, the park would pretty much go mostly dormant. There was just a handful of employees that lived in government housing in the park. We would get snow up to the second story.
Oh, geez.
So they built all the condos with all the, like the kitchen, dining room, bathroom, a bedroom like on the upper floor so that you could see out the second story. And then the first story would a lot of times just be snowed in with like an access door. And you'd have like maybe a mudroom, a laundry room, and another bedroom, bathroom.
So your living was up.
So it was like a two level living. And they were nice. The housing there is great. It's really nice. We enjoyed it. But it, you know, you're working with the same people that you're living with, that you're socializing with. And, you know, there's a sense of cabin fever. After several years of this, we knew it was time for us to move on when we were not feeling that same energy of wanting to hang out with, the same people. I mean, we were silly. We would have card game nights that turned into cocktail nights that we would just get super silly. And we were playing different versions of poker, and Dave's boss and Dave's boss and the chief of admin and me and some other maintenance folks, and like we just get together and party, right? So sometimes I'd make pizza because there was nowhere to get pizza nearby, so I had to learn how to make pizza because our nearest grocery store was like an hour's drive away to Klamath Falls in the summer. In the winter, it was almost an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Jeez.
And then Medford was 2 hours away, and in the winter it could be like 2.5 to 3 depending on the snow level. So in the wintertime, we would get together with like 2 or 3 people into a single car and have coolers and just make a town run and make a day of it. Like we'd get our groceries, we'd go to the movies, we'd eat out somewhere. I mean, it was like,
so you get out of the
it was just something to do. Yeah, I mean, it sounds boring to most people, but it was really fun. Or sometimes we would go float the Rogue River along the Shady Cove corridor.
That'd be fun.
And like you get dropped off in one place, and then a company would pick everybody up and pick up the inner tubes and the rafts. Yeah. And so we do that.
We did that. I did that as a kid. River rafted.
Yeah, it's fun. So much fun. So. Yeah, so cabin fever is a real thing. Now, it didn't happen to us. We never chopped anybody up with an axe, so just so
hallucinate,
you know. I don't even know if I had moments of wanting to kill anybody. I don't think so. I think it was just stir crazy of just like everywhere around you was snowbanks. So.
Well, and then every time you turn around, there's somebody there. I mean, did you get to have like because you live with multiple people?
No. We each had our own. Like Dave and I had our own condo.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
like all the same people in one house.
No,
like,
it was a circle of houses, and and everybody kind of had their place. They were living with their partner or spouse or whatever, or single. Okay. And then there was a community center that had like a kitchen and a big open space and a little stage and exercise room. And so we would do things at the community center. We'd have lots of potlucks and get-togethers. So anyway, but it was such a beautiful place, but in the winter it was so isolated. You would be up at the rim, you'd see Crater Lake, there's snowbanks everywhere, you'd see the snowplow, pushing snow out the chute, like making big piles, clearing the parking lot in front of the visitor center. And then just where we worked, they would plow the road, but you'd have these giant snowbanks up around you all the time. So for some people, it just felt very closed in.
Right.
So anyway, filming locations, we were talking about this, like trying to remember what we remembered about it. So I looked it up online. So the main photography began for the movie in May of 78 and wrapped in July of 79. It took place mainly in Elstree Studios in southern England in Hertfordshire. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that it was England that they filmed most of this movie.
Is that the road? Like the...
No. So...
Oh, the building.
The film was shot in the same film studio that was used for Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back in 1980. Much of the same fake snow used for The Shining was used for the Hoth scenes in Star Wars.
Really?
Empire Strikes Back. Isn't that hilarious?
Way to recycle.
You're in the same studio. Yeah, good job. Stephen King visited the set for both films, met director Irvin Kershner. Then this later became the basis for part of his book, It. Kershner had been nicknamed Kirsch and was directing the first Star Wars film that featured Yoda. In the book Stephen King, It, there is a character named Mrs. Kirsch who is said to sound like Yoda when she talks.
Oh, now I'm going to pay attention to that.
Right? And then there's other mentions of Star Wars in various Stephen King books. So he obviously was, like many people in everywhere, are Star Wars fans. Steven Spielberg visited Elstree Studios to prepare to film Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981.
Oh.
Got to meet Stanley Kubrick, leading to a 20-year friendship between the two. So, interesting. While most of the film was shot on interior sets and full-scale exterior facade replica at Elstree Studios, a second unit crew shot some sequences on location in the American West. So, St. Mary Luke and its Wild Goose Island and Glacier National Park, Montana, were featured in the aerial shots of the opening scenes with the Volkswagen Beetle driving along going to the Sun Road. So Going to the Sun Road is in Glacier National Park, and today if you want to drive it, you have to make a reservation. Like, this is how crowded our popular national parks are. It's just the way it is. Like, it's very hard to be spontaneous and just go to a national park. You pretty much have to plan ahead, figure out what areas of parks require reservations in advance, blah, blah, blah.
Really?
Yeah, the Going to the Sun Road, they prefer you take the park transportation they're providing to up and down that road, but you have to be on their schedule. You have to book your own seat and make a reservation. So, yeah, it's not like it was in 1980 when they probably just showed up and drove. I mean, I'm sure they had to have a filming permit and all of that, but there were clearly like helicopter shots overhead of them driving this road. And honestly, without the music that occurred at these opening scenes, it'd be like, oh, this family's just driving along they're like going to go camping or something. Like, it didn't feel scary.
No.
What made this movie terrifying to me
was
partly
the
was the
soundtrack.
music. It was it was like its own character.
You
like
knew.
How,
you knew instantly.
Chills?
Yes.
Like,
it was really good.
Yeah.
You always knew that, most movies, it has the preempt of something being scary, but I felt like this movie, every music was scary, so you never knew what scene was going to be scary because the whole thing, every music, that they played.
And the way they timed it with the characters and what was happening.
And even just little things, like when he does the mind talk with the black guy, that has that little scary, music to go with that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like every little bit of the music is what makes it too.
It's a good soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack.
Kudos to the guy that did it.
So, Timberline Lodge on Mount Hood in Oregon was filmed for a few of the establishing shots of the fictional Overlook Hotel. Absent in these shots is the hedge maze, which the real Timberline does not have. So, here's a fun story. If you don't mind me telling another story. I feel like I talk way more than you. So
I'm not born. I'm 6 months old.
Okay.
So I don't have shit to say because...
Well, no, I mean, this is later in life. So,
I know, but still, I didn't do nothing.
I grew up in Oregon. Mount Hood is a very iconic feature mountain of the state, much like Mount Rainier is for Washington. Like, everybody who's in Oregon knows Mount Hood. Beautiful mountain. There's ski areas around there. The Timberline Lodge is historic. And it's a beautiful building. I've been up there. I've actually stayed the night there because my brother-in-law, Rick, so Dave's oldest brother, for his 40th birthday, he and his wife arranged for family and friends to gather at the Owl's Nest, which is a bar area in the upper part of Timberline Lodge. And we celebrated Rick's birthday with this big party, and everybody got pint glasses that had like Mount Hood and the lodge logo on it, which was really cool. And then there's a movie room at the lower part of the lodge near the lobby, and they arranged for the they projected The Shining on a big screen, and so we were at Timberline Lodge watching The Shining at midnight on his 40th birthday. That was really special.
Oh, wow.
I will remember that forever. So it's, if you're in Oregon, you have a chance to visit Timberline, even if you don't stay the night, and you want to just drive up and see what it looks like. In fact, in the summertime, there's tons of recreation opportunities up there. They're doing some fun things at meadows and different parts of the wilderness up there. So check it out. They've got summer activities, winter activities. It's a gorgeous lodge, and even if you just didn't do anything but just pop in, take a quick, few pics or whatever, and get that establishing outside shot with yourself as a selfie for your shining moment, that would, that's fun. I took Yvonne up there when she was visiting one time. We were driving around in Oregon. So the other one was the Ahwahnee Hotel, which is the Overlook's main interior reference. So it's not a replica of the Ahwahnee. The Ahwahnee is the lodge at Yosemite National Park. I've never been there, so I don't have any stories or anything, but it's a gorgeous hotel. I've looked at photos online. So the Ahwahnee Hotel was the Overlook's main interior reference, and the Timberline Lodge on the hotel's main exterior. They were both designed by an architect named Gilbert Stanley Underwood in the 20s and 30s. So those two structures are on the list of historic structures. Here's what I love about Mr. Gilbert Stanley Underwood. He opened an office in LA in 1923 and became associated with Daniel Ray Hull, and that was my maiden name, Hull, Hull, but no relation to this guy. But he became a landscape architect for the National Park Service. And so because of that, he designed lodges for Cedar Breaks National Monument, Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. He commissioned to design Yosemite's Ahwahnee, now listed on the National Register. He produced preliminary designs for Timberline Lodge in Mount Hood, and his last commission before he retired was Jackson Lake Lodge in Grand Teton National Park. So this guy was responsible for some of the most beautiful lodges in the Northwest and West of the Mississippi, between Colorado, Montana, Nevada, California, Oregon, Idaho, Washington. There are some amazing places to go visit. The Stanley Hotel served as the inspiration for the Overlook Hotel in Stephen King's 1977 novel, The Shining, and its film adaptation. It was also the filming location for the related 1997 TV miniseries, which I didn't know there was a miniseries in 1977. No. We're going to have to go figure that one out. The Stanley Hotel opened in 1909, located in Estes Park, Colorado, near Rocky Mountain National Park. So I have a friend, I don't know, we're not in touch anymore, oddly, but just, how some people just come and go into your life, but Park Service is still that way. Even if I don't speak to somebody for 20 years, if I see them again, it's oh, hey, and we strike up a conversation. So there's no hard feelings about not being in touch with someone over so many years. Sometimes you get back in each other's lives and have conversation and then pop back out again. It's just, Park Service is weird that way. But I went and visited a friend who lived in near Denver in a suburb, and she took me over to Estes Park, and we actually visited the Stanley Hotel. So this was from her car window across the way. The hotel's up here, but you can see how it's remotely tucked into a mountainside. So you can, you get that sense when they're driving in the movie up the Sun Road, that they're in a very remote area. It feels
it never ends, the drive.
And then that's the photo, which you can go online and also see photos. But that's my actual photo of as we pulled up, and you could see the whole hotel. It's so beautiful because it's so striking against the mountain landscape because it's white. So white. It pops really well. And then some natural landscape formations around there. The rocks are really pretty. Mountains are pretty. So this is an elevator. This is the main elevator in the hotel lobby. And when I took this photo, I wasn't paying too much attention. So at the time that I did this, I think it was 2007 or 8, I had my Canon digital SLR digital camera. So it wasn't a phone, right? So when I was back at home and looking at these photos, this I swear to God, I'm not lying. This little smoky, foggy area was not in my original. Was not
You
in
got a
my.
ghost on camera?
It was not in my view of my camera when I snapped the photo. But when I looked at the photo later, I saw this, and so I know Dave thinks I'm nuts, right? Because he's like.
He's a non-believer.
Anyway, there's this little part right here that if you kind of look at it in a certain way, it kind of looks like a head of something. I mean, what do you think? Am I nuts? I might be nuts, but I can tell you that white foggy stuff was not in my view when I took that photo. The shiny part was totally there. Yeah, but that white, whatever that is, it was not in my. When I snapped that picture, it was not in my lens view.
Wow.
With my eyes. So, I don't know what that's about. So, this is the stairway going up to the rooms. So, Stephen King would have, walked up to his room, number 217, where he stayed. I'll talk about that. This is the bar area in the hotel. We did stop in and have a little cocktail drink just to say we did that.
Cocktail.
Yeah. And this is me being a goofball, acting like I'm scared because I'm in the bar of the Shining Hotel. But obviously, it's not the Overlook. It's where Stephen King wrote the book. And then this is my friend Bonnie Santos who took me there. And we had so much fun that day. We also went to Rocky Mountain National Park. We saw elk. We saw elk. I mean, it was
These
a ball.
are cute.
It was a good day. So
look at that carpet.
So in 1974, during their brief residency in Boulder, Colorado, Stephen King and his wife Tabitha spent one night at the Stanley Hotel. On the advisement of locals who suggested a resort hotel located in Estes Park, an hour's drive away north, Stephen and Tabitha found themselves checking in at the Stanley as its other guests were checking out because the hotel was shutting down for winter season. After checking in and after Tabitha went to bed, Stephen King roamed the halls and went down to the hotel bar where drinks were served by a bartender named Grady.
Oh.
As King returned to his room, number 217, his imagination was fired up by the hotel's remote location, its grand size, its eerie desolation. Later, when King went into the bathroom and pulled back the pink curtain for the tub, which had claw feet, he thought, what if somebody died here? At that moment, he said, I knew I had a book. So that sounds so Stephen King, right? King and his wife were served dinner in an empty dining room accompanied by canned orchestrated music. And he said, except for a table, all the chairs were up on the tables, so the music is echoing down the hall. And I mean, it was like God had put me there to hear that and see those things. And by the time I went to bed that night, I had the whole book in my mind.
Wow.
The Shining was published in 1977, became the third great success of King's career after Carrie and Salem's Lot. The primary setting is an isolated Colorado resort named the Overlook Hotel, which closes for the winter. In the front matter of the book, King actually states, and I can read this from the actual book, he says, some of the most beautiful resort hotels in the world are located in Colorado, but the hotel in these pages is based on none of them. The Overlook and the people associated with it exist wholly within the author's imagination. So that's kind of cool because he didn't, you get ideas as a writer, you write what you know, but he kind of took snippets from all these like different lodges and different places that he'd been and this particular hotel and kind of wove all these storylines together and people together, which is just awesome. I mean, I know he gets a lot of praise and a lot of dispraise, but yeah, that gate. I told Dave, I'm like, if we're ever in Maine to go to Arcadia National Park or eat lobster rolls or whatever, we have to go we have to go to Bangor and like stand in front of his gate, the spooky gate.
It's crazy.
He's just kind of shaking his head. And this guy is a Stephen King fan his whole life. And I'm like, wait, you don't
doesn't want to go see him?
Well, he was like, well, look at the map. If we're over here, that's like a 3-hour drive over here. I'm like, oh my God. So kind of funny. Kind of like when we were at the Grand Canyon and I was like, where's Winslow, Arizona? Because in the Beatles and the Eagles song, the Winslow, Arizona is mentioned. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go stand on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, like in the Eagles song. And he looked it up and he was like, I'm not driving 6 hours round trip for that. Darn it!
Shoot.
So, it's fine. It's just that I love finding little pop culture moments in my travels.
I do too. I love it.
Fun.
I love it. When we went to Oregon, when we did our road trip, my whole goal was to go to Astoria to see the
That's
Goonies.
right.
I'm like,
right.
I'm going. I'm
You
with
did the Goonies
I'm
tour.
going to the Goonies. It was fantastic. And I was like, but I'm like, no, this is where we're going. Based our whole, trip around it. We're going to Astoria.
I love Astoria area. It's really cool. So here's the movie poster that's like most famously known, The Shining.
Here's Johnny.
This, I don't know if this is an actual poster or somebody made this, but it's
Ooh, that's
so
cool.
artistic. It's like got the scenes of the movie within the body of Jack Torrance.
Wow.
And then this one was really cool, which inspired me to do the carpet tiles, because it shows like Danny riding his
It's tricycle.
little tricycle.
Big wheel.
Big wheel.
We call them big wheels.
Yeah, big wheels.
I don't know what they're actually called.
No, I think they're
big
big
wheels?
wheels still.
Okay, because this is what we call them with big wheels. I had a Smurf.
That's all.
It
Have
had
a Smurf.
It had a giant. It was blue and white. It had a giant Smurf face on the
Did
front.
you feel Smurfy when you were riding it?
I was really low to the ground, so getting
you
off
were
of it,
Smurfling.
It was
I
like
remember watching the
you get-
Smurfs. Everything verb related was a Smurf.
with
thing.
a Smurf. It would go because it had the plastic wheels, so it wasn't like it had rubber wheels. It was plastic wheels. So if you got stuck, you just sat there. You just spun.
yeah.
Because you couldn't get out.
There was no
'cause
grip.
There's
There was
no
no
grip.
rubber
so
grip.
you're just going, okay, come on, let's go. And then, Mom, I can't go. Not to get off the bike and move it, but somebody had to come move it for
Oh
me.
my God. You were not so Smurfy
No.
in that moment.
No, I was grumpy.
All right, so I'll go through some highlights of 1980. Popular movies at the time, I already mentioned Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. Another one that I personally loved, because I will always love Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda, and Lily Tomlin, 9 to 5.
I love 9 to 5.
And I mean, Jane and Lily reunited for Grace and Frankie. That's a series on Netflix. Hilarious. I highly recommend it. Stir Crazy, Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder.
Which one was that?
It was. I
saw a bunch of their
I
movies.
can't remember the plot of Stir Crazy.
I have to look it up.
But it was a funny movie. I remember seeing it. And then one of my favorites, because I loved that Clint Eastwood series where he was the boxer
guy
and had the
monkey,
the orangutan.
orangutan.
So yeah, Any Which Way You Can also came out. The Motorcycle Gang, The Black Widows. I mean, that whole thing just cracked me up. No, it was just so silly. Popular books at the time, The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum.
Oh.
Made into a movie with Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. Only took 22 years. It came out in 1980 and then it became
it was very popular
22 years later. Okay, so 1980, just think back. What do you think a hit song would be?
I don't know.
Like, thinking back, like when you've listened to 80s music.
Pat Benatar is from the 80s.
She is.
I'm thinking hair music. Like Bon Jovi.
Like a little more disco-y.
Oh, I don't listen to that.
Michael Jackson perhaps would have been a popular singer in the 80s. Come on.
I don't listen to those.
Michael Jackson? You never Thriller and all that?
Thriller came out in the 80s.
In mid-80s.
Yeah.
But, so he had his song, Rock With You All Night, I Wanna Blah, Blah, Blah. He was like kind of a R&B disco-y.
Okay, nope, don't know that song.
Escape, the Pina Colada song, Rupert Holmes. I like to,
She's like
I like
Pina
to-
Coladas and getting caught in the rain. That's all I know.
Yeah. So that song was popular,
Okay.
which makes sense. I mean, we were right after disco, right? 1980.
Okay.
Casey and the Sunshine Band, Please Don't Go. Like, I know, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it right, but I know the song. But so those are, three pretty big artists at the time. MTV did not air until August 1st, 1981, so there was no music videos. So all we had was the Grammy Awards and the Motown scene.
They don't even do the Motown things anymore, do they?
I don't know. I haven't paid attention.
Oh, yeah.
So 1980, the best comedy, and these are Grammy winners. Best comedy recording, Rodney Dangerfield.
No respect.
No respect. I get no respect. The vocal pop, best female vocal pop song was "The Rose" by Bette Midler.
Oh, okay.
So she was she won as like best pop vocal singer. The male vocal singer at the time was Kenny Loggins with "This Is It." I mean, Kenny Loggins was huge for there.
Wow,
for a while.
yeah.
Rock vocal performance was Pat Benatar in "Crimes of Passion." Look at my autocorrect changed that to Pat Beneath instead of Benatar. Stupid autocorrect. And then the best rock male vocal, my husband would love this, Billy Joel, "Glass Houses." Like, my husband loved Billy Joel. That was like one
Really?
of his first, yeah. For you, the best country song was "On the Road Again." Willie
On the
Nelson.
road again. I can't wait to get on the road again. Yeah.
Okay, so I looked up junk food popular from the 80s. So this is 80s decade, not necessarily 1980, right? Because it's hard to get that pinned down. But one of my favorites, do you remember Slice soda from Pepsi Company? So PepsiCo, there is like a,
Sliced soda?
it was called Slice.
Slice, no.
And they had an apple slice. So it was sliced
Was it
soda.
pop?
And it was soda pop.
Oh.
And it came in the can. I mean, cans were like the most popular
Right.
version at the time, but it might have come in. But anyway, I would go and play tennis for a couple hours with a friend and get all sweaty in the summer, and I would ride back, and there was a little IGA grocery store right at the top of our hill where we lived, and I would stop in there and get a slice soda and a candy bar and like ride home and drink the slice. Oh my god, it was so good. It was apple and it just tasted so good.
It tastes like an apple?
It did. It was a I miss it.
Crazy flavor.
As soon as they stopped selling it, I honestly was sad. Like it was. I mean, it was sugar. Hello,
Right.
but it was so good. Dr. Pepper gum that had the liquid center when you squeeze it. Remember?
No,
Oh, that
nasty.
was
I
so
would never
good.
eat those. I don't eat those kind of the gushers where you eat it.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, no, that used to
Ooh, I
creep me
used to
out.
love that. Hidden Valley Ranch dressing.
I love hitting ranch.
A shelf-stable recipe was developed 1983. History was made. We've never looked back. Like I don't know anybody who doesn't like ranch dressing. I mean, I make my own now, but my powder that I add to my dressing is Hidden Valley.
Hidden Valley.
So
we
there
love the
you go.
Hidden Valley dip. I like the dip better than the ranch.
I gotcha. Okay. Post cereal had Smurf Berry Crunch.
Smurfberries. I remember those.
So Smurfs were huge. Dairy Queen Blizzards came out in 1985.
Ooh, yum.
Those
I
are
miss Dairy
good.
Queen.
We have one in Swim.
Yeah.
Remember TCBY, frozen
No.
yogurt? You didn't have Froyo? Oh, we had one in Eugene. It was really good. Cool Ranch Doritos came out in
I love
1986.
Cool Ranch.
Like, again, who doesn't love those?
Right.
Nerds, grape and strawberry, and the little
With
half,
the
and
half
half
box.
boxes.
Yeah, where you
That-
pull the tab
Yep,
out. Yeah, I
That
remember
came out
those.
in the 80s.
I
Love
remember
those.
Where you eat the grapes a little bit and then you
Yeah.
close and then you flip it and then open the strawberries and
Or if you were crazy, you did a little both because you
No,
know,
you
wanted
can't
that
mix your
sourness.
food.
Oh no, I totally did. I made it a little more sour and tart and tasty. Oreos double stuff came out because we needed more, right?
I
We
love
needed more
Oreos.
filling.
I love the golden Oreos. I really like the
Oh,
golden
are they?
Oreos.
What are they like? Vanilla?
It's like a vanilla one. You know what's
Okay.
really crazy?
Like a sandwich, like an old
Yeah.
fashioned sandwich cookie?
Well, our friends from Texas, Elizabeth, is gluten free, so we got the gluten free Oreos,
Are they good?
and we're like, you're like, I don't know, because sometimes the gluten free
It
is
depends, yeah. What
no,
they
they
made it
tasted
with.
fantastic.
I mean,
They tasted
there's-
just
yeah.
like an Oreo. And then we had s'mores, and she got the gluten free Chips Ahoy
Oh, interesting.
for
Okay.
the because she can't have graham
Right,
crackers.
right.
They tasted just like them.
Wow,
I was like, "Ooh,
that's pretty
Gluten
cool.
free's coming along, man.
Go gluten free. Okay, so popular fashion in the early 80s. So when I did this, I was thinking back to like all those John Hughes movies that we love, like Pretty in
Oh,
Pink,
Breakfast
and
Club.
Breakfast Club, and
80s is like the.
I mean, there's so many 80s teenage movies.
Isn't
So
it more like the exercise outfits?
Oh yeah,
You know,
the Jane Fonda,
Yeah.
the workout. So you had that crowd. You had the preppy crowd, which was like the Ralph Lauren polo shirts. And I remember there was a time
With the
where
collar.
you'd wear two, like the guys would wear two shirts and flip the collars up. Like, I don't know why two shirts, but what? It's like they had the collars up and then they rolled the sleeve up. So their sleeve on what was a different color because
Oh.
they had two shirts, right? So the undershirt, when you rolled the sleeve up, showed the color of the first shirt they put on.
Oh,
But the
that's
collars
weird.
had both color. I don't, whatever. The rap crowd, it was Air Jordans, Adidas, Fila, Puma.
Mm-hmm.
Those were good, solid brands. Skater crowd, you had Converse, Vans, the punk fashion. Everybody wanted to look like Tony Hawk. The new wave crowd, it was the London influence of David Bowie and Adam Ant and Bow Wow Wow. Like you kind of had that, I don't know,
The
like
androgynous.
leather and safety pin and androgynous and whatever. The metal crowd, you had the long hair, the leather rocker jackets, the cut-off denim jackets, the white high trainers.
Yeah.
Girls, we moosed up our bangs and we had big hair. And
The big
this was
hair.
no joke.
Yeah.
When I say moosed up your bangs, I mean your bangs were
Yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
standing straight up. Almost. Like it was a lot of product.
My
went
Aunt
into that.
Lori still has those.
Oh man.
She still has the
She
curl.
teases.
The curl.
and, oh my god.
She still has it.
Everyone wanted to wear the Ray-Ban Wayfarer sunglasses. These are the ones that Tom Cruise wore in Risky Business.
When he comes out in his underwear?
Yes. And he's to that Bob Seger song. He's got those glasses. So, like everybody wanted those,
Those are like the
specific
Thick
glasses.
What
But they were
thick black?
cool.
Oh.
Yeah, but they were cool. Like they also were worn by I can't remember his name now.
Don't think about it.
David Addison in Moonlighting. He was also in Die Hard. You know, the guy who...
Bruce Willis?
Yes! Bruce, oh my god! Total brain fart. Yeah, Bruce Willis
Bruce
made
Willis?
those famous also. He wore those. So my life so your life in 1980, you were born...
I was born November 79, so this came out in May of 1980, so I was 6 months old.
Okay. And I mean, I know you don't have, like, obviously specific memories of being a baby, but
No.
what do you recall what your parents used to tell you about
Nothing.
those times?
They don't know.
You didn't, like, later in life, you didn't talk about, like, what was going on when you were a baby?
No. I was, I cried a lot. I was told that I was, if I was born first, they would have never had kids. That's what they told me as a kid.
God! Oh my god! So, like, where were you where was everybody
So I can tell you where
living?
we lived. So where my dad lives now was my great grandma's house, and we lived
Okay.
next door. We rented this little house next door, and so I remember when we were little, not at this age, but when we were older, my mom would hold us through the kitchen window, hold us up, and my granny could see us from her kitchen window.
Okay.
So we'd
Okay.
wave to granny. But in this house, and I haven't been in this house in years, so I don't even know if it's the same layout. But it had a trap door, like a door in the back. So then it was like, I'm assuming it's probably where they stored, extra stuff. But my dad was a pothead. Love you, Dad, but he was a pothead.
A lot of people were back
Would
then.
put us down there as kids, like put blankets and toys, and would hang out. In
Unlike the lower part of the house. I mean, I guess you could make it a
he
fun
wouldn't
little play
close
area.
the trap door, but Dad would tell us that that's where we would go if we were being too loud or just he didn't want to deal with
just
us.
almost like his going in the closet and creating the
Yeah,
little cubby
so we would
hole
go,
and
but we
shutting
couldn't
it
get
down.
out though.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not like we could get out because
Wow.
if there's, you had to climb a ladder thingy, and so we used to do that. And my mom, I think it was only a 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
So my brother and I shared a room. So my brother's only, he's a year and 18 days older than I am. So she says that one time I was a mischievous child. I was horrible. I used to like to take the diapers, and Mom said I used to take them and stash them.
Oh, I remember you mentioned that.
And she had, I think it was a purple hippo or a purple elephant, some kind of stuffed toy that I obviously was terrified of, and she'd stick it on the diapers.
So you wouldn't. So you couldn't.
So I couldn't go pull them out.
Wow.
I'm like,
interesting.
really? A toy?
So
must
did
have
they not give you
terrified me.
toys? Because
I don't
like,
know.
why wouldn't you have toys instead of just playing with diapers?
I have no clue.
Oh my gosh.
My parents were young. Who knows what I had? I don't know.
You gotta ask these things so you know your history.
No, they don't really care. If you ask my dad, he's just like, yeah, I don't know. He's a pothead. And my mom's not here anymore. So
Oh, that's true.
she
would have
know.
filled
She
in
might have.
some
If I called her up and asked her, I bet
Yeah.
she probably.
She
I could really
would.
call my brother because he knows everything. He remembers
Yeah.
everything of our lives. And I'm like, I don't remember shit. You know?
So, and that was Port Angeles.
Yeah, I'm born and
Okay.
raised here.
Okay.
We've moved cities and stuff, but we've always come here. So,
Okay.
and we were very poor. We didn't get to go and do extravagant vacations or road trips or stuff. So, we grew up in the backyard of the North Olympic Mountains and Hurricane Ridge and stuff like that. But yeah, born and raised here. We did a stint in Alaska when I was five or six. I think it was only like a year. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, born and raised here, so it's we didn't do much. We didn't as adults, or as kids, we grew up camping. That's what we did as
We
our
did
fun
camping
stuff.
too, yeah.
And bowled. We live at the bowling alley still.
So I was 8 years old in 1980. I was living in Eugene. My mom and I can't remember when my mom got divorced from my dad. It might have, by this time, it might have been after they got divorced, but I really don't remember. Sorry, Mom. You might have to call me and tell me
Mom's gonna
where I'm
hurt you
going to be
now.
wrong again. But we were living in Eugene, and it's an area known as the Four Corners. And I was living, I was here and my best friend was here. So our houses, our backyards kind of went like this. And so we were right next door to each other. We spent pretty much almost every waking minute together that we could. And we had the bikes with banana seats, and we would just ride around and around and around the blocks of the neighborhood.
I had a banana bike. Mine was yellow.
So I met, was it? I can't remember what color mine was. It might have been white, but I just remember the banana seat and the handlebars. And I mean, they were so comfortable to ride.
Yes.
And you would put cards in the spoke to make it sound like it had noise.
Right.
And, so anyway, when I was old enough to start making friends, I met Tracy in the backyard, over the fence. They had her and her mom and dad had moved in in that house. And so we met, we were 5, we stayed really close all the way through high school up until early college years for me. And then after
Nice.
college, we kind of broke away for a while, and then we started talking again just 3 or 4 years ago. And so we haven't met. She was living in Seattle for the last however many years, and I was over here in Port Angeles. And
Didn't even
because
know
we
it?
got back together during COVID or started talking, we just never came together. And now she just recently moved to Idaho. So when I go visit Pam in Idaho, I'll have to try to visit Tracy. But so yeah, so I mean, we're not super close at this point as we were back then. But we have stayed in touch, and so that's pretty incredible to say that you met someone when you were 5 and you're 52 years old and you still talk to that person.
That is cool.
Yeah. I had 2 cats that I loved, Merlin and Gypsy. They lived with my mom and I. And I just remember it was pretty much my mom and I. My mom was working for IBM. She was a computer programmer. She was going to LCC, Lane Community College. So she was single mom, busting ass,
nice.
trying to keep, things afloat. And I thought she did a great job, even though I might have been a little brat. I'm sorry. There in the backyard, and I don't know if this happened in 1980, but it was close to that time frame where I was in love and obsessed with lily pads and frogs and wanted a pond in the backyard. And there was this area in our neighborhood that had this little creek that would have lily pads and stuff.
Oh.
And I thought all I had to do is dig a giant hole in the backyard, line it with trash bags, fill it with water, go grab some lily pads and start my own pond. Well, I did that. My mom was like, okay, go for it. And we ended up having to cover it up because all it became was mosquito
Cesspool?
larvae. I had no idea. Like, I just think my mom must have been like, okay, you'll learn this lesson, because she didn't put a kibosh on it until all we did was began
grow bugs.
Larvae. Yeah. then it got buried. So those are my like big takeaways of. I mean, I don't remember what I talked about before when it was 1980, but those are some things. So back to the movie, I'm going to go over some observations that we liked, and then we'll try to wrap this up because we're coming on close to an hour, I think. So the actresses who played the ghosts of the murdered Grady daughters, who everybody calls the twins, Lisa and Louise Burns, are identical twins. The characters in the book and the film script are merely sisters, not twins. In the film's dialogue, Ullman says that he thinks that they were about 8 and 10. Nonetheless, they are frequently referred to in discussions about the film as the Grady twins.
As the twins.
So that's, you could see in my piece, you could see one girl is a little bit smaller than the other. But, I mean, when you see the iconic twins,
right, they look the same.
Yeah,
they're dressed the same. Because I remember listening, because the one part, where they talk and you don't really pay attention, I caught that.
Yeah.
So wait a second, they're not twins. You always assume that they were, because they're dressed alike and they look alike, but they're not. In the movie, it portrays them as being, sisters. Yes,
in pop culture, they're just
twins. Known as the twins. Yeah.
So Mary mentioned this earlier. Actress Shelley Duvall did not get along with Kubrick, frequently arguing with him on set about lines in the script and her acting techniques. She eventually became so overwhelmed by the stress of her role that she became physically ill for months. At one point, she was under so much stress that her hair began to fall out. So Kubrick would yell and scream at her, and she would have to do take after take after take to get the level of fear and whatever. I mean, I can't imagine being under that kind
torture.
Yeah. So the door that Jack chops through with the axe near the end of the film was real. Kubrick originally
it was
a real door. Kubrick originally shot this scene with a fake door. But Nicholson, who worked as a volunteer fire marshal and firefighter
one hack
in California Air National Guard, tore through it too quickly in the fake door.
Right.
So Jack's line, "Here's Johnny," taken from the Ed McMahon introduction to The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, which is a popular late night. It was kind of like the only late night TV host
Johnny Carson
show at the time. Johnny Carson show was improvised by Jack Nicholson. Kubrick, who lived in England for some time, was unaware of the significance of the line and nearly used a different take. So
would not have been the same,
right? So not only is he we're chopping through a real door and he's tearing through it and his face comes through and he's like, "Here's Johnny." I can't imagine the movie without that scene.
It
wouldn't feel right.
No. I didn't realize it was a real door.
Yeah, I didn't either until I read that.
Because he does hack at it. I just figured it was
like
just
a fake, like a styrofoam or one of those styrofoam cord. Yeah, no, it was a real door.
Good for him.
So he was in good shape and was like,
I got this.
The snow maze near the conclusion of the movie consisted of 900 tons of salt and crushed styrofoam.
Really?
What the hell do you do to clean up 900 tons of salt and styrofoam? Where does that go in the earth?
Should we tell them our blonde moment for the film?
Yeah.
So we were watching it, and in the film, you see these little placards dug out in the thing, and we're like, I wonder what they say. Because, some places have little, little quotes or little things, and we're like, oh, I wonder what these little placards are.
So this was before the snow fell. So Shelley, or
they go through the
Winnie
maze.
and Danny are running through the maze, and the lower part of the shrub, we saw these little...
They're all cut out with these little things.
They turned out to be the lights.
They were the lights.
And we thought, oh my God. So we were both, once we saw the lights come on in the maze, we're like, oh, they weren't plaques, they're lights. So we're used to visiting parks with plaques all over.
Plaques everywhere.
Information.
It would have never even dawned on me that they were lights.
Oh, so the shot of the tennis ball rolling into Danny's toys.
Oh, it was 50. Okay.
50 takes.
50. I knew it was a lot.
50.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Because it just rolled, because it didn't roll, like they just wanted to roll like a certain way,
Right.
or in that little space, and
Yeah. So the scene of Halloran, who was Scatman Crothers, approaching the hotel in the snowcat was shot in real snow approaching the real Timberline Lodge in Oregon.
Oh,
So that's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's
Nod
cool.
to Timberline and the real snow they got there.
That's a lot of snow.
Stephen King has never understood why people find this movie so scary, which I find hilarious. And I feel like, really, you're just going to say that because you're Stephen King?
Well, it's the psychological part
Yes.
of this, knowing that this guy has gone crazy for no reason.
And the music.
And the music,
paired with
yeah.
it, and all the weird,
Yeah.
random things. Like, all of a sudden you see a scene where some furry is going down on a guy in a room, and then there's like
made no
cobwebs
sense.
and dead people, and you're like, what the, is this an acid trip?
How
going on?
long has it been like
Yeah.
this?
It's like pretty creepy. So Danny Lloyd, who plays Danny Torrance, he grew up to be a professor of biology at a community college in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Oh.
So he did not stay in the movie business. After 50 takes of rolling a ball, he's like, probably, I'm
done.
out.
Well, and if it's scary to us, imagine as a child.
Yeah. I mean, but their scenes are probably so isolated. He doesn't have the entire context.
No, but it's just
Like, why am I doing this 50 times? Good grief. So our favorite movie moments, when obviously there were a couple fun lines that Jack Nicholson says when he types out like over and over hundreds of pages, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Like, that is repeated in pop culture all the time. And then I love the line when he was in the bar and he was without the alcohol being shown. He said, I would give my goddamn soul for a glass of beer. And it's like, oh, you say that?
Yeah.
And then
And
all of a sudden,
yep.
it's happening. Okay, so I didn't realize this when we were watching the movie, how long it was into the movie before we got our first glimpse of the twins. It's 50 minutes. So I thought it had been shorter than that. So it was almost an hour before you see the twins. And they appeared in the hallway. They said, hello, Danny. Come and play with us. Come and play with us, Danny.
Forever and ever.
and ever.
Creepy girls.
Yeah. And then Jack in the bathroom with Grady talking about Danny and Wendy, like, how he's getting frustrated because they're not doing what he says. And Grady is saying of Danny, he is a very willful boy, if I may be so bold, sir. And Jack says, it's his mother. She interferes. And then Grady says, perhaps they need a good talking to, perhaps a bit more. My girls didn't like the hotel at first. I corrected them. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her. The correction was taking the axe and hacking
And killing them.
41 minutes left of the movie, we see Wendy discover Jack's type pages. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
So that was pretty far into the movie before that happened. An hour and 19 minutes left of the movie, we see for the first time Red Rum.
Red Rum.
And that was like one of our favorite lines. Danny Torrance doing the whole talking with his
Rum.
finger, and Tony's a boy, imaginary boy that lives in his mouth. It's like,
Yeah,
red
it's in my mouth.
red rum, red rum, red rum. It's like the freakiest thing.
It's creepy.
And he's like, Danny's not here,
Danny's
Mrs.
not
Torrance.
here.
So like sometimes Dave and I will be joking around and be like, Vader's not here, Mr. Fuller. We're dumb. We do movie lines and stuff all the time when we're in the kitchen cooking or on road trips or whatever. So Wendy running through the hotel alone at this point because Jack and Danny are out in the snow, and the hotel shows Wendy itself, right?
Right.
She saw, all of a sudden she sees cobwebs and corpses and that weird furry scene. And the cobwebs and the dust and everything and the black and white reminds me of Disney's Haunted Mansion.
The Haunted Mansion?
Which I totally love. And I always wonder, like, what's the company name who just comes in and creates dirt and dust?
Dirt and dust? Could
Like,
you have a cleaner come and do it
yeah,
at the same
but
time?
the opposite. Can we have it's like
Can we
the
have a giant
Monsters
tub?
Inc. is like odorant instead of deodorant. I'm like, we need you to make this dirty, not
Could you
clean.
make my house dirty?
So that kind of wraps up The Shining. It's a
Honestly,
fun movie. I want your take on it.
One
Just
point
your
that
whole...
we noticed, and I don't know if anybody else has ever noticed, the final scene when they have the party. They have the big party. You see the balloons in the hallway and the streamers.
That's
and
right.
everybody, I assumed and I'm sure most people, was that it was a New Year's party. And when you finally read the thing, it's 4th of July.
That's right. That's right.
And we're like, what do you mean it's who has streamers and balloons like that at the 4th of July?
They were doing some grand ballroom.
I mean, it was,
fiesta.
I always
And they were all
assumed.
dressed up, and it was like the gold room, and they were serving champagne. It just seemed like New Year's.
So in the snow
Yeah.
and stuff like that, you just assume that it's a
Right.
New Year's party. And we were so, because we watched it July 3rd, we watched it the day before. And
Yes.
like, oh my God, it's the 4th of July. Who has a party like that, 4th of July?
So unbeknownst to us, we watched the movie at the time of year that this, was in the movie.
It was pretty funny.
So what's your overall take? Like, would you recommend this movie? Do you where does this fall in like your beloved scary movies?
I love The Shining because I like Stephen King. I love Stephen King's. I don't ever know who directors and stuff of that. But I really felt like it was a really, like, you were on the edge of your seat the whole time. The whole time you're watching this. And you know that Danny's different. So you're waiting for things to happen. And things don't happen. But you're just... And then the only thing that irritated me was the mom was so oblivious. So oblivious to things.
And that's why I had a hard time with her at first when I kept thinking of her as Olive Oil, because she's just so ditzy.
Yeah.
But then once I watched the movie like 3 or 4 times, I realized, oh, no, that actually makes sense because she is ditzy.
She is ditzy.
She is like, she'll believe anything that Jack tells her.
She was
like,
really, that was probably the only irritating part, was just like, come on, how do you not pay attention to your husband?
Yeah,
especially when he talked to her.
So
when
dumb.
all of a sudden he's more violent with her and talking to her, you're not like, whoa, what's going on here? Why are you talking to me like that?
She just
is
sort
this
of
a
like
normal
takes it and like walks away.
Or most people would be like, hey, what's going on? You know, why are you behaving like this?
Yeah.
Or here you are to write a book and you decide to write your book in the main fucking room. Who does that? You got a whole million rooms where you can lock yourself into, but no, you got to pick the main room.
Because writers are finicky. You have to set your stage. So he had to have a view.
Yeah.
He had to have a fireplace. He had to have a giant table. I mean, I could see it why he chose that.
It just irritated me.
But you're right. I mean, that means now Danny and Wendy would have to go around other hallways to get to the same.
It was just
stairway.
an inconvenience for the whole. I mean, not that there's a lot of them, but I mean, it's just an inconvenience. But no, I would recommend it. It's a good movie, and if you like Stephen King, movies or the books.
Yes,
it's a really good book.
Even though this movie doesn't follow the book exactly, but I like them both for very different reasons.
I do too.
So there you go, people. We did The Shining. We hope you enjoyed it. We made it just under, we're near the end of July. It was supposed to be a July episode.
It's a long month.
Our next episode is going to be August. I can't tell you when, but we did watch the movie for that. And the movie is Copycat, starring Holly Hunter, Sigourney Weaver, Harry Connick Jr., who looks completely insane and disgusting from his normal sexually awesome self. He's such an attractive guy.
And that was in 1995, so I will be able to participate in my life because
so
I was
have
15.
Some life stories to share. We're finally edging into the 90s now. I'm not trying to do this like where we're doing movies in some kind of chronological order.
No.
It just happened. Yeah, we both were like, "Do you like Copycat?" And she's like, "Yeah, I love Copycat." I'm like, "Okay, let's do
long
Copycat."
time.
So we watched that.
It was a good movie.
Or earlier this month. So yeah. So that'll be our August episode. Love you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching us. We
hanging out with
appreciate
us for another movie Screams and Beans.
Screams and Beans. I'm all out of rum.
Cheers till next time. Yeah, we need more rum. We need more red rum. All right.
Rum.
Bye. Oh wait, this is hilarious. It's still filming.